Hello YouTube. I think we took care of the heat problem on the driver's side with the new heat shield underneath the master cylinder. Now what we need to do is come back and visit this side. This just is not enough clearance. And I'm afraid what I'm going to have to do is redo the whole thing. I'm going to have to make these lines longer. I want to come out the side here where I have more room, so I'm further away from these pipes. Now, I'm not so much worried about the fluid because that's constantly circulating, so it will have cool fluid in the tube. I just don't want the tubes to get hot. So I'm going to bring it out here. That means bending a new pipe. Okay, the tape marks the spot where I'd like to route the new shield for the gas line. So much for that shield. And now we can pull the required shield up out of the way. This is the fuel line shield that I had running from 9 inches in back of the flex plate to 9 inches in front of the flex plate as required by NHRA and most racing associations. What we're going to do is make a different one. This first bend is going to be the same. It's going to be the bend that comes up from underneath the car and up the firewall. It's going to be the same. Now the way I did this bend is I just heated it up and I bent it and I got a crease here. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to put slices in it and then heat it and bend it, and maybe I won't get the kink. So let's mark that off. We can make it longer than what it has to be, and we can cut the end off so we don't have to really worry about where we start this curve. So we'll start our curve there. And then I think we'll slice it every ½ inch. So we put a slice here, slice here. I have an old piece of exhaust tubing that fits over this 1 inch pipe, and we'll just mark our cuts here as a guide and help keep me straight. I think we want to go at least halfway. And maybe more. With these slots cut, I should be able to bend this up a little bit, but what's going to happen is very quickly we're going to eat up that gap and we're going to have to come back and grind the slots again. And I don't know if I'm going to have to heat this to do this or not. So let's try it. Okay, now we got to come back and cut these slots again. Well, these aren't closed up yet. This curve gives us the angle that we want to go up the firewall. And this is about 3/4 of an inch too long, so it's good, I can trim it. This next curve that we make is at the frame, and this is the frame right here. So this has to be a compound curve. We're bending up and we're bending over. And in order to do that, I need to weld these slits up so that I can make new slits so that we bend it in the right direction. All we have to do now is weld up these slits. There's our first bend. We've made our first bend, and I've lopped the end off to be at the same angle as what the frame is. This is the back side of our curve for the next curve, and this is the front side, and this is where we're going to put our slices so we can bend it up this way, and hopefully I have everything in the right spot, otherwise we just wasted a whole lot of time. So let's cut some slots. All right, let's see what that gets us. Okay, let's see if we can fit that in the car. We need to gain every inch we can get. And if you see, this gap opens up as it comes up towards the engine. And what I want to try to do is squeeze this down and heat this area and this area and get it to bend over permanently. So let's put some pressure on it. And put a little heat on it and see if we can get it to move over. not that one. Yeah. I think we successfully moved that. We got a nice even gap all the way down now, so that should give us more room here. We'll get this thing cooled off and we'll test fit it again. All right. Now,
that mark there.
Nice and straight. See, this one's actually cooking a little bit. You want to be as straight as you can, perpendicular to the pipe.
So like this.
Yep, kind of like that.
I like that.
And this point, this pivot point, wants to be beyond this line. If this gets over here, it's going to want to shoot back at you. So the center point of this thing wants to be beyond the midpoint. Well, you're fine where you are.
Yeah, as I'm checking.
Go ahead. Okay. I just hope we cut it on the right side.
Even on the right side. That's going to be hot.
Yep, that's right. That's good. This could go back a little bit even.
Do you want to heat it up to do that?
Nope. Okay, stop. Now, what we have to do is, you see each one where the split is touching?
Tack it.
Well, no, you got to cut it again because there's not enough bend.
You can do that one.
All right. Bend it. Okay. We went the wrong way.
You went the wrong way. That's the answer. Can you, can we twist it?
I don't know if we can save it.
Okay, hear me out. Cut it and turn this 180 degrees.
We can do that.
Get you where you want to be.
We can do that.
Because it's the right bend, it's just going the wrong way.
No. Cut it right there, huh?
Cut it, well, that's my thought. You got to find out the right spot to do it. But yeah, I think it's about right here. You cut
right
it.
Here, no.
Right here, you think?
Yeah, I think right there.
So you cut it there, you just turn it 180 and weld it back on. Because it's the right bend, it's just in the wrong spot.
Well, we're getting there. We're up to the firewall now. Let's grind these welds off and do another fit, and then we got to do this final bend here. So here we go, grinding welds. We have to snake this thing in here, like so. And it goes something like that. Just like that. And then we got to put the final bend in up here to bend it around to the firewall. So that's pretty good right there. We can live with that. And it'll go more. Okay, so this is the back side of the bend. We do these big tubes the same way we do the little tubes. That's the back side of the bend. And the middle of the bend wants to be right there. So let's go cut some slots. Just like before, we'll mark the top. This doesn't have to be too big of a bend, so I think we'll start the bend here, halfway, and we'll end the bend somewhere around there. So let's go every half inch. So half, one, half, one, half, one, half, one. We'll cut these slots. I screwed up. I cut the slots on the wrong side of the pipe. I'm gonna have to weld these up and cut it on the other side. Son of a gun. Okay, that's looking pretty good. We gotta bend it some more. Now we're gonna bend it some more. Okay, that's a lot. That may be too much. So that is too much. We got to take about 5 degrees off of it. Now we're going to take some of the grind marks out of this pipe. What we want to do is bring our new gas line shield up at the point where the headers are furthest away from the firewall. And this one, if you remember, we bent out of the way. So what I'm going to do is use a block of wood and set it on the firewall and go as far one way as I can go and be vertical. And that touches a pipe right there. So I'll draw a line there. And then I'll go the other way. And that touches a pipe there. So I'll draw a line there. And we want our pipe to come up right in the middle of that. So we want the pipe to end up right here. Speaking of parts, I think we have enough. We've got our noodle. We've got some nice hold downs that'll fit real nice. We've got hose ends. We've got our regulator. We've got screws that have been powder coated gloss black so that they'll disappear when we put them on the firewall, and bolts to hold the fuel line brackets. This is your first look at how this is going to go in here. And it goes right up against the frame like that, right up against the firewall like that, and it's going to look like that. Yes, this is tilted, but it's tilted because the fuel regulator is right there. It's pointing right at it. I'm just wondering if I should count this towards the number of times I've taken an engine and transmission in and out of the car. I'm currently at a count of 27 with the real engine and real transmission, I have to do the same thing with this, really, although it's light duty. I mean, it's just a strap rather than a chain. But I got to pump it as many times. I don't have to disconnect electrical stuff. But it is out, so if I can count this, this is 28 times. All right, we have the lower clamp in place. Now we got to put the upper clamp in place. I think it's easier to slide out from underneath than to climb out. We want our pipe to pass right through that location right there. So we'll put our clamp right there. Let's put this upper clamp in place. This one screw may interfere. I think we'll be all right. We'll put it in. Okay, that's pretty solid. I can shake the whole car with that. I really don't need another one. The next step is to take it back out. This next step may turn out to be one of the more difficult steps. We have to get 2 -8 steel braided lines through this shield. Now I did it through a shorter one with a bend in it, and that wasn't easy, but it wasn't tough. But we've got a number of bends to go through, so that's going to be a little more difficult. Now, this is too short, this is too short. If I cut this in half, it's just the same length as this, so it's going to end up too short. So what I'm going to have to do is take my 25-foot roll, take both loose ends, feed it through the tube so that I got 2 ends here that I can put fittings on for the regulator. Then I have a loop at this end and I can cut it off at the right length, and what's left of the loop will be one piece of scrap, the longest it can be. So what we have to do is get these 2 pieces of -8 line through that shield. What we're going to try to do here is probably the most difficult part of this task. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these ends of the lines together, staggered, so that we can try to push it through the shield. And we'll start down here. And we'll tape up the top here so we get rid of all the burrs. And maybe it'll slide through the shield easier. And now, the noodle. We want to go in this end. I think you're going to have to come out here.
Boy, that really doesn't want to go.
Oh, yeah. Grab a hold of it. You got it?
No. Got it.
All right, wait a minute. Wait a minute. All right.
Oh, well, it's out.
A little more. Okay, good. Outstanding. Thank you very much.
You bet.
That wasn't easy.
Nope.
We have lots of line pulled out. We can pull it back in. I don't think we can pull one line in separately, so what we need to do is mark these lines to the right length, and we'll mark our return line right there. And we'll mark our feed line right there. So what we want to do is cut right above the tape for each line. This cut is probably one of the most important steps to putting fittings on, and you want it straight. Now we take the tape off, take our 90-degree fitting, and take the, I don't know what you call it, the cap off, and put it on the end of the hose, getting all of the metal pieces inside. And you got to push it down until it seats in the seat. We'll take a nail and put a little oil on the end of it and run it inside the fitting, and what that's going to do is slide the hose up inside that nut as tight as it can be. Now we'll take and move the nut to the vise. And they do have special jaws. We'll take our 90-degree fitting and screw it in. Now, when you do this, you want to make sure the hose does not walk out. So I'm holding the hose here, and if my thumb moves, then I know the hose is moved. But so long as I screw it in like this and the hose doesn't move, we're all set. And now I got to get a wrench. Yes, I do have AN wrenches. Okay, now I like to take it down to a thumbnail or fingernail's width and then line the flats up. It just looks nice. That's good. They're not jammed together, but there are a fingernail gap in between this fitting and this fitting. This can go anywhere, so we're all set. This fitting is done. Normally I would blow it out with air right now, but it's a long 25-foot hose, so it's not going to do me any good to blow it out until we cut the hose for the length underneath the car, and then we'll be sure to blow it out. Now we got to put this fitting on. Same deal, we're going to cut it off. Take the tape off. We'll call this the collar. We'll take the collar off the fitting that was on the regulator. And once again, we got to get all the strands inside the collar and push it on until it bottoms out. Now let me see if I can get you a picture of it being bottomed out. If you look carefully, you can see the rubber hose is bottomed out on the lip on the inside of the collar. We'll repeat the procedure of widening the hose inside of the fitting by running an awl down inside of it, so that pushes the hose up against the side of the collar. Now we take the hose fitting and start screwing that in. We'll move the nut, the collar, to the vise. hold on to the hose so we know that it doesn't walk out on us, and spin the hose on, the fitting on. And we want a thumbnail. Let's try that. Perfect. So now we have our two hose fittings on, and remember, I would blow it out normally, but I can't because it's one big loop. Now this should now fit. We should be able to put this hose on here. Oops. And this hose on here. That's the fuel regulator backwards on the whole shebang, which is backwards. Here's our fuel supply. This is our return, and this is the feed to the carburetor. Now, I'm not going to be able to get it up and right in its place where it's going to go because there's a pass-through for the fuel lines right after the shield. So this is only approximate, but this is going to go here like that, and we want that fuel regulator to come down, I'd say 6 inches. So we got to pull 6 inches of line out of the shield. Let's see if I can pull some line out of here. Oh, nope, I can't. There we go. Not so bad. Okay, I think that's too far. Let's try that. I think we need just a little bit more line, but that's about where I want it, right there. I think that's good. I think we can mount that up and then do a final tune on the gas lines. But yeah, let's put it right up there. So we want this right there, right like that. Oh. Yes, I'm going to use a sheet metal screw to hold the fuel regulator in, but it's only temporary. What I'm going to do is come back over the winter and fix all the holes that we've got in the firewall from the external wiring harness that we had, and the holes that we've got from moving the fuel line, and the holes for the brakes. So what we're going to do is we're going to repaint this firewall. When I do, I'm going to weld nuts on the back side, and there won't be any sheet metal screws. Sheet metal screws shouldn't be used to hold things together. They have their purpose, but this is not it. That'll hold the fuel regulator in place while we do the rest of this project, and I will come back and fix those sheet metal screws. So I think we're really close on the lengths here. So now I can determine the length that I need underneath, because we have to make a connection underneath into the existing fuel lines. I'm not running the fuel lines all the way to the rear again. So in the middle of the chassis, we're going to have to make a fuel line connection. Let me describe what you're looking at. These are the original fuel lines that ran to the front of the car. This is my transmission cooler, and these are the same lines that were running to the front of the car. Now what we're going to have to do is cut these lines and splice in the new lines that go to the regulator. And when we do that, we have to make sure that we get the supply line from the pump hooked up to the supply side of the regulator. And in an emergency, I don't want to have to be playing with that. So what we're going to do is cut one length and cut the other another length. That way they can't be hooked up incorrectly. I think the best bet would be to take this transmission cooler right out of here for now, and that'll give us good access to these lines, and we can decide where to cut them. Now this should fold down out of here, and we should be able to pull the cooler out. And there's the lines. Hopefully no fluid comes out on top of me. All right, we successfully removed the transmission cooler without getting any transmission fluid on anything. Unbelievable. With all this space, here's the plan. We want to have offset joints so that it can never be hooked up incorrectly. But we want enough hose so that we can get it down here to work on to put an end on. So I think the first one goes right here. We cut this hose right here, and we bring the hose from the front down to here, and we make a joint right there. So let's mark it. We'll do it right here. We want it here. We want the next hose right there. Remembering that what I said, that one of the most important things you do here is to get a square cut. So that's what we got to accomplish here. A nice square cut. We'll take the tape off, slide a collar on. Put a little oil on our awl here. Well, let's get it on the awl, not on the floor. All right. Then we'll do the short one first. Slide it in. Make sure that hose is up against the inside of that collar. And this is a connection I've used before, so I have anti-seize on the threads. And we slide this in, and I'm holding the hose here to make sure I'm not pushing it out. Okay, we got it started. Now it's a matter of screwing this in, holding it, and holding that hose so we know that we don't walk the hose out of the connection. And here we go. One more turn. Okay, I like it. First of 4 fittings. We'll put this fuel line holder back in temporarily, finger tight. What we have to do now is cut our front lines off. And what I want to do is cut them long and then do the front permanently and then come back and do these fittings so that we got it right. So I'm going to mark it right here and we'll cut them that long. I think we can clamp our shield into place now. And now we'll put the bottom clamp in place. And that tube is not going anywhere. What we want to do is verify which line underneath the car is the feed line from up here. So what I'm going to do is blow air into this, and I'll be able to feel the air come out of the hose underneath the car. And it's not that one, it's that one. So this is the feed line. And we'll put a tape on it so we don't lose it. Now we need to do the same thing for the rear line. We need to know which line is coming out of the pump. So now we have to make our connection here. And what we have is a male 8AN fitting, which goes into there, like so. And then we have a hose fitting that goes on the other side of the AAN, like so. We know that the upper hose is the hose that is supply, and the hose wants to be just long enough to make it into that connection. We certainly don't want to make a mistake. With all our line ends made, we take it all apart again and blow out these lines and get all the dust out of them. But here we go. The lines underneath are all disconnected, and here we go. We'll get the gas line. And the feed line. And now we can start putting these things back together. Put the feed line on. This is our feed line to the regulator. This is the line from the pump. I've also blown them all out so that there's no particulates inside from our cutting of the hoses. And we're ready to start putting them together. I have some anti-seize on this male-to-male coupler. And we'll screw the lines together. Now our pump feed line is connected to the regulator input, and the return line is connected to the line going back to the tank. We tighten this all up, we'll get the transmission cooler back in. Feed the pegs into the side of the transmission and snap the transmission cooler up in place. Having connected the return line to the fuel tank, the last line we have left to connect is the one from the pump. And we just screw it on here. So we now have a fuel system that is fuel tight from the tank to the carburetor outlet. I guess there's one thing left to do, and that's to put this motor in to see how much clearance we got with all the work that we did. This is what we accomplished. Looks like we gained a lot of space there. It came right up in the right spot. This was a tough little task. We moved this header tube. We created a new shield. We bent 1/8-inch thick tubing. We moved the regulator. We cut the existing fuel lines and spliced in our new fuel lines. I think we accomplished our goals. If you enjoyed this video, there will be more.